The early history of the United States and the colonial period. Asian immigrants from hunting and nomadic backgrounds migrated to North America along the Siberian coast about 30,000 years ago and became the ancestors of Native Americans. They settled in the present-day United States region after moving south for thousands of years from Alaska. The early Native Americans engaged in gathering and hunting, and later they hunted animals such as bison to obtain meat and leather. Around 10,000 BC, stable settlements were established in the Western Hemisphere, and then the Indians in central Mexico began farming crops such as corn, squash, and beans around 8,000 BC. Later, agricultural technology spread northward, and corn cultivation began in the southwestern United States around 3000 BC. Irrigated farming then emerged, and by 300 BC, primitive forms of village life had developed. Native Americans had close ties to their regions and pursued a kinship-based, communal way of life. The first European arrival was by the Vikings in 1000 AD, and in 1492, Christopher Columbus landed on one of the islands of the Bahamas. Spanish explorers secured vast territories in Central and South America, and the northern region gradually became known through French explorers. Verrazzano, a Florentine who set sail to France, landed in present-day North Carolina in 1524. He continued sailing north along the Atlantic coast and arrived at the port of New York. In the early 1600s, many immigrants from Europe migrated to the North American region, and among them, the British mostly received support from private entrepreneurs to migrate. In 1607, the first British colony was established in Jamestown, Virginia, and the initial immigrants gradually settled in other regions such as New England, the Middle Colonies, and the Southern Colonies. In 1620, the Pilgrims arrived on the Mayflower and established the Plymouth Colony in Massachusetts, and in 1681, William Penn, a Quaker, received a vast land grant in what is now Pennsylvania. William Penn worked to attract immigrants to Pennsylvania, and many immigrants of various religious groups, such as Quakers, Mennonites, Amish, Moravians, and Baptists, came to avoid religious persecution. In 1683, German immigrants settled in Pennsylvania for the first time, and by 1733, 13 British colonies were established along the Atlantic coast. Most immigrants were of British origin, but there were also immigrants of other nationalities, such as the Netherlands, Sweden, and Germany, who left for immigration for economic reasons, new opportunities, or adventure. Some came to America under indentured labor contracts. Early immigrants to America came in search of religious persecution, economic opportunity, and freedom, and some of them provided labor as indentured workers. Some also paid transportation and management costs through immigration agencies. On the other hand, African slaves initially worked as indentured workers, but by the 1660s, they were forced into lifelong slavery. The economic and social structures varied by region, and in New England, where farming was difficult, people earned a living through trade or by running mills and sawmills. In such circumstances, New Englanders had the opportunity to accumulate wealth through trade or business on the sea. In the mid-18th century, New England colonies formed a diverse culture with the most concentrated immigration from England, while the central colonies exhibited even greater diversity with immigrants from a wider range of countries. Philadelphia was dominated by Quakers, but other denominations held sway in different regions of Pennsylvania, and German immigrants developed agricultural technology. Southern colonies were mostly centered around agriculture, with large planters in Virginia and Maryland using slaves to cultivate crops, although yeoman farmers participated in colonial assemblies. Charleston was one of the most important ports in the southern region, while Virginia focused on tobacco cultivation, and South Carolina and North Carolina exported rice and dye. In the early 18th century, colonial assemblies gained the power to vote on taxes and expenditures, which led to the proposal of bills to limit the power of aristocratic governors and enhance their own authority and influence. Thanks for watching.